Jared Payne, righto, beauty. Kelly Annand, and apologies, Kelly, we are running just slightly late, but welcome, good morning and welcome. I see you've handed something out here for us. Mm-hmm. So how it works, 10 minutes, and the time is yours. If you think us asking you questions would be helpful, you can take it as your submission is read and go from there. So, welcome.
Thank you. I will read it if that's all right, because something happened when I submitted through the website, and for some reason the written part of it didn't come through. So I would like to just to sort of read through it, and then really happy to have questions, and it'll be quite quick. So yes, my name's Kelly Annand, and I'd just like to thank you for the opportunity to submit here today. I'm sorry about obviously the late inclusion of this, but as I said, something had gone wrong with the website. Might have even been something I did, I'm not sure. I'd like to speak in support of the Tourism Part A and the increase of targeted rate contribution to the Hawke's Bay tourism so that they can do more, and Tourism Part B to increase tourism funding to raise our regional profile outside of Hawke's Bay. I'm currently the councillor representative in Central Hawke's Bay on the Central Hawke's Bay Promotions Board, and I've been there since November 2013. In that time, I've been extremely impressed and grateful for Hawke's Bay Tourism support for our local operators. Last year, CHB Promotions, they made the wise move to engage Hawke's Bay Tourism and collaborate in the employment of a tourism coordinator for our district. This has been a really good use of ratepayer funds that Central Hawke's Bay Promotions receives. This position was based out of Hawke's Bay Tourism Office 1 day a week, and the other 2 days working in CHB, supporting the tourism operators and coordinating events. The collaboration has raised the profile of Central Hawke's Bay, and it has ensured that we are in line with the Hawke's Bay Tourism Regional Strategy. We have committed to linking our website to theirs. Ours average 5 hits a month compared to their 20,000. It's a bit embarrassing. I know, but you've got to make sense of this stuff, don't you? We have had an excellent media coverage. Facebook presence has doubled, and with close to 700 likes now. So we're well on our way to our target of 1,000. We're present on the map that shows what great attractions we have in Central Hawke's Bay, and I believe our cycleway is to be included in the next lot of maps going out to print. However, most importantly has been the feedback that we've had from our tourism operators. They've been incredibly supportive. What sold it for me was hearing from our many operators about how Hawke's Bay Tourism has helped them to see their potential. For many operators in Central Hawke's Bay, their businesses are set up around their homes and their passions, and it was so encouraging that we were investing in a service that could really help them feel connected and supported, something that smaller areas struggle to do as often finances, resources and skills are limited. The strategy is an awesome step forward for Hawke's Bay. Our region doesn't actually always do well working well together collaboratively, and I think that's just one thing that's often holding our region back. So I commend Hawke's Bay Tourism on their efforts of leadership and giving us a tangible strategy that invites the whole of Hawke's Bay to play their part, right from Central Hawke's Bay to Wairoa. I'm confident that Central Hawke's Bay, I can confidently say that Central Hawke's Bay Promotions supports the Hawke's Bay Tourism seasonal campaign, and we are excited that we get to be first and foremost included, but secondly it provides leadership and a platform for which we can now support and base our own strategic plans around. An example of this was the Big Easy warm-up, which was held on Good Friday. This was a clear example of a regional event that gave us a chance to do something locally and leverage off their event. Many of the traffic travelling through to the event stopped and took part on our new Rotary cycleway. Many of the visitors were from Hastings and Napier, and they came to Central Hawke's Bay for the day. It was also really encouraging to see the many local families out to support the event. That we can sort of estimate that there was over 400 people that participated that day, and the weather was really stunning, but it always is down in Central Hawke's Bay. Plans are well underway for our spring fling, And this is an event that will support the seasonal campaign further. This has given us the chance to work with operators that already do so much during spring and link them to the Hawke's Bay campaign and expertise of Hawke's Bay tourism. We look forward to seeing where we can go with this event in the coming years. We are currently doing a sign audit so that we are ready to embrace the new pictorial message that Hawke's Bay tourism are working towards for our region. Central Hawke's Bay has for many years got away with doing its own thing. And while I believe it's important that we work with what is uniquely ours, we would be remiss not to partner with our Hawke's Bay neighbours and get a piece of the pie that they are pitching. And a lot of the thanks belongs to the Hawke's Bay Regional Council for the support that you guys have given so far. And I'm here to, ensure that you know that the money so far is actually well spent for the benefit of the whole of Hawke's Bay, from Central Hawke's Bay to Wairoa, which I think is a really important point. So once again, I'd like to say that I'm in favour of Hawke's Bay Regional Council's increase in funding for Hawke's Bay tourism so that they can contribute to do better in Hawke's Bay, but most importantly, help us to be in the face of the potential visitors throughout New Zealand and the rest of the world. To finish, I'd also like to thank Hawke's Bay Regional Council for your support of the cycleway in Central Hawke's Bay. My family and I ride there most weekends, and it's not a weekend that goes by that we don't see over 40 families out using the cycleway. It's a really fantastic asset for our community. And I think it's a real example of something that's been very innovative and a project that is also linking our region, which is exciting. And I'm also supportive of the Ruatana for Water Storage project. Don't throw anything at me if some of those that don't agree with it, but my passion and what gets me up in the morning and excited to be alive is ensuring that there are employment opportunities for our young people in Central Hawke's Bay, and anything that would have an economic benefit for our district is welcomed by me and my organisation. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, questions. Do we have any questions for Ms. Annand? Councillor Graham.
What do you think's the biggest thing in Central Hawke's Bay from a tourist point of view that would drag people, tourists down there, especially people from Hastings and Napier? What do you think's the biggest thing that would get people off their bottoms here and down there?
I think there's many things that would sort of pick that, but I guess Waipawa is one thing that sort of comes to mind. One place that comes to mind, it's sort of turning into a little bit of a unique shopping experience for a lot of people, and we've all sort of talked about how we can link the farmers market type people that sort of like to go out for the day and shop and look around, and how we can link them and draw them to Waipawa and come shopping there on a Saturday and Sunday. Our homesteads are beautiful, our beaches are incredible, so I think we're really blessed in Central Hawke's Bay. We've actually got a lot to offer, and I think the important thing is that we've got to really do things well so that we're tapping into the wider Hawke's Bay and the skills and expertise, so that the people that are working so hard in those industries actually have the support to be able to promote it better. Yeah.
Mr. Mohi.
So there's a lot of talk about the old picture theatre. What's happening there? In terms of, has it been renamed and revamped?
The Civic Theatre? Yes, it has. It's now been taken over by Catherine Hobbs-Turner, actually, is sitting in the back there, and it's called the Picture House. And it's got a wine bar, and it's a fantastic place to eat, so come down. You should be there.
Thanks, Kelly.
Yes.
Kelly, my question for you, you come from a council where by and large you support no rate increases, and yet you are throwing us a challenge of a considerable rate increase. So for every $150,000 of extra funding, we need to add an extra 1% onto the rates.
Mm-hmm.
So the maths aren't looking pretty for this. Can you talk me through how you suggest we sell it to the public?
To the whole of Hawke's Bay? Wow. Yeah, I mean, you get faced with that all the time, and we get that all the time. How does the farmer benefit? How does, and I think we've got to stop actually looking at how each individual benefits. We've got to remove that attitude from our minds. We've actually got to be thinking about how what we can contribute now can benefit the whole of Hawke's Bay, because what is good for the whole of Hawke's Bay is what is good for the individual. And so, yeah, I just think that selling it as exactly that, you know, that it's about the benefit of the whole of Hawke's Bay. I mean, I went up and had a look through the port that time, and that was one of the most amazing, really important things that I've done since I've been a councillor. And it was really, really good to realise that it's not just the Napier Port. This was about a project, this was about an investment for the whole of Hawke's Bay, and I think that's what we don't do enough. We're just so siloed, and Central Hawke's Bay can sometimes be a bit guilty of that. You know, it's only about, oh, it's no benefit to us, or the Ruatana for water storage doesn't affect anybody up in Wairoa, but we've got to look at things as an overall economic benefit, and I believe that this is that the Hawke's Bay tourism strategy and what they're hoping to do and planning to do will do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your submission, your presentation, and we will be in touch. Thank you.
Cool.
Right, now we have Westshore Beach Inn, Jeremy Bayliss. Number 106.
I pretty much know the rules, so shall I get started?
Good thinking. I'm just trying to find your submission. So 10 minutes, and the time is yours. If you wish us to ask you questions, give us some time in the 10 minutes. Thank you.
Sure. As is traditional, a bit of background. I've been running bars and restaurants and accommodation in Napier for the last 28 years, formerly from Wellington. Former chair of the Hospitality New Zealand Hawke's Bay branch and a life member. And currently run the Westshore Beach Inn, which is also an Econo Lodge franchise, which is part of the Choice Hotels group. I think one thing that always worries me about Hawke's Bay is that when you think of Hawke's Bay, you think about great lifestyle. And to me, that's sort of, I have a friend in business that's about, perhaps we don't work as hard and smart as what we should. And I think that regardless of what any decision we make, unless you're working hard and smart, you don't get anywhere. And I think that there is sort of a underground philosophy here that life should be a little bit easier. You know, if you walk up and down the street at 5 o'clock, it's pretty much a ghost town. In fact, if you walk up and down the street at 5 to 5, most shops are shut. So, you know, to me, I think there is an inherent philosophy that, you know, we're blessed, and because we're blessed, we shouldn't have to work the hours that perhaps other areas do to be successful. So enough of that rant. We're sort of here because, you know, tourism has been struggling. I think that Annie and Hawke's Bay Tourism have done a great job the last 3 or 4 years of tidying up the area and getting things better coordinated. I think that I fully support Plan A, which is their what I would call cost of living increase to keep things as they are. Moving forward in terms of point 2, I support the increased funding, and I think that if you look at why we're sitting around the council table today discussing tourism is because you took tourism on, whether it was voluntarily or whether you had a gun held to your head a few years ago, you essentially hold the seat. So that's why we're here, and it's your baby, and we're grateful for that. I think that from my point of view, you know, what is tourism? You know, there's many aspects of tourism, and I think that's one thing that worries me about, if there is a thing that worries me about the plan going forward, is that the plan is very broad. I'm not sure that we can be experts in all parts of tourism in this area. You know, there's international, there's domestic, there's friends and families, there's events, there's conferences, and there's cruise boats. It's very difficult to be an expert in any of those areas. And one thing that I'd like to see going forward is more of a plan of, you know, who do we want to be in those spaces, and focus on 1 or 2 areas rather than thinking that we can cover all of those areas off. I also would like to, in talking to support Annie and Hawke's Bay Tourism in terms of the funding request, I'd like to see that there is a little bit more transparency from Hawke's Bay Tourism. I'd like to see a bit more detail. I think it's great that we have a marketing plan that talks about 4 seasons, but I'd like to see, as we move forward, a demand and a request for more transparency in terms of what KPIs are going to be sought and where the money is actually going to be spent. I think that there are so many skill sets needed in those different areas, and I'd like to see that the sub-councils that have different responsibilities and are doing different things, that there actually is an overall plan where we're all working together and it's not a duplication. I think that one last comment I'd like to make is that events are particularly important. I think that, as Annie and I have discussed before, the hockey masters turned up on our doorstep, 10 nights of 50-odd teams, restaurants and bars struggling to keep up, top rates. It was wonderful, and it's actually something that we probably didn't target. It fell on our lap. We have a car club meet here the other day, 500 cars turned up too. Again, it sort of falls on our lap but fills the bars and fills accommodation. And I think one thing that we need to get a lot better at, that I think our point of difference is in Hawke's Bay, is our wonderful ability to run events, because we have a very consistent climate and we do have some fantastic facilities for those events. I'm not convinced that the hurricanes and the storm are fantastic tourism events. I think they're great events for the local market and for them to enjoy it. 7 or 8 years ago, we'd be full with people from Wairau staying 2 nights. 3 or 4 years ago, we'd be stayed 1 night. For the Hurricanes game on Friday, we had 1 room full. And so I think a lot of those things are turning into local events, which I think are important to have, but it would be disingenuous to suggest that they're actually tourism events. I think that getting back to those events, the hockey, the car club, I believe that's our point of difference. I believe that I'd like to see Hawke's Bay Tourism either far more focused on that, or else part of that funding is focused on the event market, which I think is gold. I don't know, I'm being disingenuous to Annie, that I think we said if we had one of those every month, then a lot of our problems would be solved. And that's a market that no one really thinks about targeting. You know, it's one of those markets that, you know, everybody wants to have the tourists, everybody wants the Chinese, everybody wants the Filipinos and the Yanks. Hey, there's an awful lot of money just to be made in those events. So to sum up very quickly, I fully support the funding application by Hawke's Bay Tourism. I'd like to see it tagged, and I think Sean Bevan covers it pretty well, about KPIs and accountability. And I'd like to see a bit more of a discussion about how that plan is. I know that we have a marketing plan and a seasonal plan. I'd like to see a lot more detail and that to be more of a broader discussion.
Thank you. Okay, we've got 4 minutes here. Councillor Bevan.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for your submission, Jeremy. Just looking at the submission, you talk about the port and the airport, that both should have the same names, Napier as lead. There are 2 critical tourism entry points that defies logic not to identify destination first. I want to ask you a question. Is the destination Napier, or is the destination Hawke's Bay?
My philosophy is that the destination's Napier. That doesn't mean to say that I'm anti-Hawke's Bay Tourism or what they're doing. I believe the destination for this region is Napier, and I think that recently I got an email from TripAdvisor that talked about special deals into this area. It talked about Napier and the Napier code NPE for the airport. I mean, the port is one of probably our 2nd or 3rd biggest entry point. If you say Napier Taupo Road, the State Highway South, you talk about the airport and the port. The port has probably the 3rd highest number of tourist guests. So it's massive, and it's Napier. Do you know what I mean? It's Napier Port. It's not Hawke's Bay Port. It's Napier Port, and it's in Napier.
So does that mean that we should be considering a differentiated rate here and be targeting more of this rate for an increased tourism spend, which is what you're advocating, from Napier?
Yeah, I think that on Kelly's good point, the whole region benefits, and that we all need to look at one. But and I thought Kelly had a good point. I think that if every time farming rating things that helped just got targeted to farmers, it wouldn't be helpful either. So I think that again, it's this philosophy that we're all in it for one. But if it meant the difference between you giving Hawke's Bay Tourism this money and not, then I would certainly support Napier paying a little bit more if that was it to get it across the line. I would support that, and I have a house and a business, and so I would be paying more, and I'd be comfortable to do that. But the original philosophy, which Kelly alluded to, is that if you took that approach to everything you did, well, you'd just have chaos, wouldn't you? You know, it's like, goes back to everybody pays for the little piece, which is not part of being one area.
Okay, Councillor Dick.
Yeah, Jeremy, I just want to be clear. because I think at one stage on hearsay you sort of associated with David George and Destination Napier hub and spoke concept. Do you still ascribe to that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
But you support Tourism Hawke's Bay.
I think Tourism Hawke's Bay is a well-run organisation. There's things that I've alluded to I'd like to see change, but I think Annie does a good job. I think they have a role to play. That just because you have a destination Napier philosophy doesn't mean to say that you're not engaging with everybody else in the region. It just means that you believe that that's where the focus should be, which is the airport name. I mean, it's confusing. You speak to the former manager of the airport and said, what should the airport be called? He said, what should be Napier? Airports are destinations. But I don't want to get into the hub and spoke debate today because it's probably well accounted for. But no, I'd have thought with the gentleman's question, I made it clear that I was a destination Napier, but I still believe we operate within the framework of what Hawke's Bay Tourism do.
Okay, that's fine, and I'd just like to say that I think the renaming of the airport was the dumbest thing that I've seen in nearly 30 years.
Yeah, this is a hearing, councillor.
And it
You keep
goes
your political views to
absolutely
yourself.
against all
Quick
the
question from
basic
councillor.
tenets of brand marketing.
Thank you, Mr. Bayliss. You are a partner with Hawke's Bay Tourism
Yes,
and
paid my fees from the start, and I've been at every fork event.
And you support the targeted commercial rate for tourism, because presumably that hits you too.
It will hit me, yes.
Yep, but you support that increase in that rate.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're out of time, and we will be in touch.